All right. Well, hello everybody. We are back and we're doing another tier list. So this will be for patch 1.7. Supposedly there's not going to be a mid-season patch, so this should be viable no matter if it's 1.7.1 or 1.7.2 or whatever we end up with. But I do want to leave a little disclaimer that this is quite early to be making a tier list. But this patch hasn't interested me a whole lot, but I wanted to at least get a tier list out there after I've kind of played matches a lot throughout the week and have a good idea of it. Another thing I want to start off saying before we start is that the patch kind of had an effect that we haven't really seen before, where the idea for the patch was to do wide sweeping changes to turn 1 prio, stabs, and tems that had both of them. And the result of it ended up being that many or most offensive natures and about half or so of the wins, especially the good wins, got hit really hard, and many other types were left untouched. So what I've noticed is that earth types and toxic types generally are kind of higher tiers in the meta. Not that there's like a huge established meta, and so most of these choices are going to be based off of like their current viability within the meta, I think, rather than like how good is this tem on an individual level. I mean, I guess it'll kind of be a mix of both, but we'll kind of just start it. So we got Mimit. We'll go in order as usual. So Mimit, I think it's been really great on my team, and I think overall it's still just a crazy good flexible tem. I should almost make an A plus tier. I'm actually gonna get rid of S tier because we don't have any S tiers. I'm just gonna call this A plus because I think there's some A plus tems, but probably not S. But anyways, Mimit I think is very strong this patch. And I think it's always generally strong in the right hands. It's one of the strongest tems in the game. But this patch, when you removed like practically 2 types from the game, being nature and wind, I think it just only gets stronger. Especially when you're just abusing combos, and there weren't a whole lot of... I guess it hurts with Mimit and Nature Koish Babua cores, but those didn't actually get hit, so those are kind of your only offensive natures left besides a couple. So, you know, I think it's pretty strong. The only thing that may put it a little lower is I think Tyranak's going to be real high. Zalbian. So, Zalbian got hit a little bit with Wastewater nerf, and then the microwave change last patch also made it so that cores of electrics and digis aren't nearly as popular. It's usually fires and digis now. I don't think Zalbian's bad by any means, but I think it's a little more reined in, so we'll probably just leave it in B tier. It's still basically a roulette of what kind of moves it's running. Chromions will skip as usual. I'll go through them a little bit at the end. Mulgu really didn't get a whole lot changed. In fact, I don't think anything changed on it. Or I guess the Adrenaline Shot Rush build got changed, but I think I was like the only one that ran that. I think Mulgu's mostly fine. I still wish they'd give it Execution back, because now they made Execution to be a cool move, which I still haven't seen anyone use it, but I think it's a cool move. So we'll just place Mulgu there in B tier, because once again, I think it's fine. And I think like a solid Digi-typing is actually really strong this patch, so... Platimus got hit kind of hard, because not only did it lose Aqua Bullet Hell for a powerful turn 1, but Aquatic Whirlwind also got hit. So it's kind of like Krema's known for notorious like double nerfs, and Platimus was a victim of that this patch. I think it's been top tier for a while, so I didn't completely mind, but when I tried it out, it felt awful. It looked like what they tried to do is buff Bubbles and then bring Toxin Shower down to 60 BP so you could run like a Bubble Slingshot build. But even with Slingshot Bubbles, you're basically running like a 50 base power move, which is really, really bad. If they made it 50 and you can have a 75 base power move at the cost of your item, maybe. But I don't know if that's healthy because then we kind of end up in the same spot. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. But I think Platinum is probably, it's a lot healthier, and I don't think it should really be buffed, I guess, so I should probably put it in B tier. But turn 1, it has to be placed next to an electric in order to do anything that's not low prio. No, I'm going to put it in B tier. It felt so bad. I think it could almost get a little bit of defenses compensation. I don't like huge stat buffs, but I think Platimus needs something or other. Platox also got hit. Platox was pretty cool before the patch, but it lost a lot. Like Toxic Slime got hit, and V-Claws lost prio, so those were two big parts of Platox's kit just gone. Lawali. So I'm going to place Lawali in C tier. Lawali lost Plague. I hate it. I hate it so much. It's basically your only turn 1 nature nuker now. But it's not even a wind type anymore. Your wind options are Wind Blade with like 67 BP, not able to be boosted by Slingshot even, and Hurricane which is 77 spread, which if you use that on like a Nidrasil, it's like 40%. Like you lose the toxic matchup now. You aren't a wind hardly. Hypoxia is so crucial to its moveset, or at least it was. And now that it's gone, it felt really bad to play. It's just kind of another turbo support, but I think you'd rather run Gazuma like every time. Tataru. I don't recall Tataru getting any changes this patch. It lost Resilient in the middle of last patch, like 1.6.2 or whatever. And it's been a lot healthier since then, but nobody's really used Burglar. It's just kind of back to being a neutral stat stick. And neutrals are kind of coming back. It just seems like a lot of people are going from... You know, when you, like I said, when you practically eliminate 2 types from the game, not like really, but you put a big dent in their viability, all of a sudden the other types are played more often. And I could go more deeply into it, where if because nature and wind were the 2 types that were hits, those are 2 types that counter earth, and with earth being viable, and the most common type in the game right now, fires, crystals, and electrics have to be played less often because there's going to be more of their counters around, but okay, let's keep going. Garunder. Garunder's a toxic. It's also electric, though. I think there's no reason to put it below B+. Garunder already kind of had the moveset where it didn't have both turn 1s, and it has a prio on hold. It's got a great typing, and I think it's still really good. It gets walled by 2 types, Earth and Crystal, so that's probably why I'm not putting it in A. But, you know, Garunder's still really strong. It also can't take as much... It doesn't get as much value out of speed control, which is the dominating mid-range strategy. Okay, Magmut. Magmut lost a hold on Trample, but Trample is still a bad move. It's just... It's really strange, but it did get Head Charge. And Head Charge, I think, is a really nice buff. I don't think I've seen anyone experiment with it, and I haven't done it myself. But because that raises defense, even just 1 stage on a bulky Tem like Magmut, I think it's really nice. Problem is, once again, it's a fire type, and there's a lot of earths around. So it's like, I want to put it in B tier, but I think it's like, could go in either B or B-. I'm gonna put it in B-, just because it doesn't quite fit into a stall team. There's just better stall options in this patch. There's a lot of great stall options, and Magmut's not one of them. And it doesn't really fit into bulky offense, just because it's got a bad offensive typing. But it's not bad by any means. Grandpa, I think Grandpa's fine. Doesn't really need any changes. I actually like where Bully's at. I still wish they went the other direction with it, but it's still fine as is. Bird Season's nice. Has Turbo and Hypno, which are strong. And it's a monotype, balanced out. I'm putting Amphitheater in D tier. Amphitheater lost Plague, so its only special attacking nature move now is Allergic Spread, which feels bad to use. So, I mean, if you want speed control, you're probably not going Amphitheater. The only reason you would ever go Amphitheater is if you want, like, a Spark support, fast Spark support, or, like, an Evasion spam. But it's just, I tried a settling version of Amphitheater, and it didn't do anything. You you don't get that last second hit off. You don't get the Prio exhaust. It seems silly why Amphitheater can't take advantage of its speed. I don't like that change, and I think it hurts it really bad. Vola's strongest Tems and Grandpa's a counter B+. Because the lack of good electric Temps. I can see that. I actually haven't seen any Grandpas at all to counter the Volarins. I could definitely see it as a good counter to Vola because of Bird Season and all. But the problem is you're basically only getting your trait value then from Vola because most other wins just suck. They just suck now. So I'm gonna leave it in B tier. But that is a great point for sure. Madrid got a new trait. I think it's still C tier. They nerfed the damage on Sandstorm, and like even 20% boosts on an 80 BP move brings it up to like not even 100 base power. So it's still weaker than like Nagai's Fury and Synergy Master V-Gust from Adoro. So it's still weak, and Madrid still has so many downsides to it. It's not a good enough buff to justify the nerf to Crystal Deluge. If anything, right now your moveset is clogged because you want to run Crystal Dust, Soil Steam every time. And now you have 2 spread moves to choose from, and you still want Crystal Deluge. So you're stuck with having to only bring one of those spread moves, so you don't get a whole lot of value out of that trait. So it's still underperforming. And then the resistant trait might even still just be better in general. Beast King, hello, good to see you. Taifu got buffed. I think it's finally out of D tier and probably into C tier. Part of the issue with Taifu is that there's a lot of games that aren't, Taifu games. It may have Dust Vortex and Hypoxia, but that does not mean that it wants to be in front of a Toxic or a Fire. It wants to eat those swap-ins, but that makes every single turn like a prediction game. And even if you do hit like a Nidrasil with a Hypoxia, it might do half, just because you don't have stab on it. Even though you get like partial stab with natural conversion. And then I haven't seen any stall teams running Safe Retreat either. I still wish they would have just made Safe Retreat 3 turns, instead of just being Baton Pass but bad. Because Taifu also has no way to scale its offenses or special defense. It has a little bit of healing, and it has Bark Shield. So it's like it's designed to be on a bulkier mid-range team, and it doesn't... Even though I think it actually has the stats now, and even decent traits, I think it might just be a bad meta for it. I think if we see a meta that doesn't have Toxics every other match, that it might be able to shine a bit more. Getting Plague removed from Ampha's pools, hit hard. Yeah, it's awful now. I tried it. Some people were probably like, oh, but it's still super fast and gives speed control. Why are you running it over like Gazuma? Like the speed control master, or even anything with Quicksand, or even Electromagnetism now is a great move. like run Ragnet over Amphitheater. It's not like Amphitheater's wants its nature type anymore. It doesn't do anything with it. Yeah, I really liked Amphitheater before too. It feels so bad now. Alright, Whiplump. So Whiplump is interesting because now that a lot of natures feel so bad to play, all of a sudden your water type stocks go up. And your electrics are scared off by all the earths everywhere. And Whiplump counters the earths that are everywhere. And it's also one of the viable wins. So even though Strashiel got nerfed, I think the Whiplump is going to be decent this meta. Not top tier by any means, but I think it's worth considering. It also still has free shenanigans, and it can be very fast with plethoric snow. And, you know, water cannon synergy with all the toxics. Can still have that combo with Acronox because Acronox didn't get nerfed for some reason. So, yeah, I think Whip Bump's alright. Scunch. Scunch is nice. I think most melees are pretty good. I don't think it's like B+. I think it's just in a good spot. Because melees can hit the earths that are everywhere. And there's not a whole lot of mentals around. Because all of the crystals and electrics... Or actually, no, I don't know why there's not more mentals around. There's still Nagais, and I think like we'll see Barnshe some more. Minotaur we see some more, but most people aren't running like 2 mentals, so if you're running a melee stack, you're probably doing alright. And Scunch isn't real scared. Mooflank. Mooflank's still in like a solid A. Thing just outputs so much damage consistently, and there's not a whole lot that stops it. It's got good bulk all around, good speed, prio, spread, support with cage. I ran into a cage team yesterday and it felt really bad. Rolder. So Rolder I think is going to be pretty solid this patch too. Not anything crazy, but in a viable spot. Because natures aren't that great. Some of your more viable waters got hit, like Saipat and Platamus, so that means less waters around. You basically just have to worry about Oshiaras. And Oshiara doesn't hit that hard initially. Like a Tsunami to a Rolder probably does like 40-50%, maybe a bit more depending on your build. Just on the tier, do you have a ranking within the tier or no special order? No special order in the tier. It's just the tier itself. And in general, the B tier is like balanced. B plus is maybe slightly above average, could use a slight nerf. B minus is slightly below average, could use a slight buff. A tier is, yeah, I could use a slightly more meaningful nerf. C is like, could use a slightly more meaningful buff. D tier is like, this thing needs a big part of its kit. And for Amphitheory, that's Plague. A plus is like, this thing needs to lose a big part of its kit. I should probably put that in like parentheses somewhere, but yeah, no rankings within the tier. Nagais is A at minimum. Yeah, definitely. Because Nagais was strong at the end of last patch. It's like on paper, it's pretty well balanced. It doesn't have a water move turn 1. It's got it's an enabler with the Seed Aura, but I think the problem is that, man, it might even be A+. So the big thing you want to do to counter the Naga and Stoneball Tems is bring Natures, and guess what Tems got hit the hardest? That's right, Natures. So I think that there's not a lot stopping Nagais right now, because the electrics is weak too, and even the crystals you can just hit hard with a Stoneball user. It's not going to be Turok anymore, but it can certainly be Zyzir or even Rolder now. So yeah, I think Nagais is going to be crazy strong once people start using it again. I mean, the only difference is Acronox lost to Rotten Goo, so Acronox Naga isn't as strong, but I think that's just fine. You're looking to get into PvP more and do more in it, dive deeper, just watch YouTube VODs of 1.7 patch. Well, I appreciate it, but I'm sorry for my negativity. I have a slightly more positive outlook on the patch after I've been playing it some more, but it's still definitely my least favorite patch. Yeah, and it still is like the best PvP of any game. The only reason I complain is because I think I see the potential in it, and I know why it's what it has been and what it could be. Alright, Ninja is another A+ tier. No, it is insane to me that it just lost cooperation. It had a whole list of changes, and that was the only thing that mattered. Toxic Ink is still insane. You nerf wins, and all of a sudden, this thing loses a lot of its counters. It's very interesting because Tuvine lost Turbine. I think base speed Nidrasil is like 2 points faster than Tuvine now, and it can actually Hypno it. So, I mean, we might see more Nidrasils run Hypno just to win the Tuvine matchup, because Tuvine was one of his worst matchups. I don't know. And then Turok was also one of his worst matchups. So now the two Tems that actually resist Toxic that you wanted to swap into to eat Nox Bombs and stuff are stuck in a lot tougher position than last patch. Also Tolkien, oh my goodness, it's just, yeah, there's so many, like a lot of the wins that got targeted were ones that countered Nidrasil directly, and Nidrasil did not get equally hit. This is awful for the game, terrible, and so Nidrasil just gets to reign supreme. Bad choice, Crema. Okay, Kapire. I'm going to put it in B-, because I still think it's missing a little something. I do. I think it's missing something. I know it got Fiery Ballad, but Fiery Ballad is not what it needed. It already has a whole bunch of speed that it really doesn't use. I just keep my Kapires at 232, so they're a little bulky and actually live a hit. Ignite Protection's kind of nice, but Fiery Ballad doesn't work with that playstyle either, and it's already got good like stall options with Roar, Block, Extinction type moves if you want to do that. So it's its offensive set that's missing something, and I still think it should get Earthbreaker, a cool 2-hold move that actually with synergy can hit via like meaningful Tems, but or even without synergy it can hit fires, which it normally gets walled by. But that's it, and it's like it's a mountain goat too, so it would fit in my mind. So I think it still just needs a little something, but it's not bad by any means. If you want a solid, hard-hitting fire, Kapire's the way to go. Maybe. Xenarith. I think the only thing holding Xenarith back is the littering of Earths everywhere. It's kind of like same thing with Kapire, but it's still very strong. Also, Deluge hit it pretty bad. The Deluge nerf was nasty. I don't think it's that bad. It's still just a crystal nuker. It got to keep its prio. It's got the highest stat total of... I think it's still got the highest stat total. Crystal Tail Change doesn't really do anything, because they gave it the damage buff so it can run an item other than Slingshot. But it doesn't have another meaningful item to run. There's not like an item that boosts crystal damage. You can run War Drum on it, but why not run War Drum on anything else on your team? I don't know. Seems goofy, but maybe I should put it on my... Ooh, yeah, I'm going to have to consider that. I forgot that there's a physical Xeno set now. I was running Crystal Quish. Alright, Auhi. I haven't actually seen a lot of Auhis this patch. I think Auhi's one of the better mentals, because Phantom Whiplash is huge, and Auhi offers support, but because of the nerf to Adrenaline Shot, where you can't turn one Jinx Whisper, I'm going to put it in B tier rather than anything higher. Also, you know, once again, Earth Weakness. And not having a turn 1, or even really turn 2 mental move hurts it pretty bad. I think Auhi's good. I really like Auhi as a Tem. But it doesn't quite... It loses most Digi matchups, because it loses to Fires and Digis. And it also has that Earth weakness, so it's just going to be in B tier. Still has everything, it's just not great right now. You're still at the top, don't want to get poisoned for an eternity. Look, I could put Nidrasil in D tier and people would still run it, because I would just get called out. I'm not going to lie, it's just... This thing needs to get nerfed, and it just hasn't been. Never pressing a new attack move. I think it's great on Volcrane, but we'll get there. Babua. Babua, I think, is one of the better natures now, just because it's one of the only aggressive natures. But it still has that nasty Toxic weakness, and Toxics are super common. And now that Straw Shield doesn't turn 1, it still can get crippled pretty easily. So I'm going to leave it in B tier. I think it's been B tier for like 4 or 5 patches now, and I think that's fine. B tier means it's just in a good spot. I wouldn't change anything. Obi lost microwaves. Oh, no, no, I said to do that. It has plasma beam. It doesn't click microwaves. It's kind of a meaningless change at this point. They should have done it back when you could do double Obi openers. But that's not what they went with. So I think Obi's fine. I don't think it's on, like, right now, full warning, for at least the 1.7 initial patch, target rep is completely broken. It will not work. But that's going to be fixed in 1.7.1, so it shouldn't be an issue for long. And I don't think, like, evasion spam teams are going to be that great right now, but I could be wrong. I think it's pretty balanced, though. You could argue for it being B+ just because of data corruption, but Obi has so many moves that it wants to click that data corruption usually isn't included in that. And I feel like a reset's a must right now. You know, yeah, we'll put it in B+. Being a reset tem, having such good utility, it's kind of like a stall breaker in ways. Anti-stall support. Saku. Saku didn't get hit hard as Amphitheater, but it is still like C tier material. It lost Boomerang, which was its by far best turn 1 win move. Debris Typhoon doesn't even compare. And you can't run my favorite set, which was Boomerang, Frond Whip, Narco, and Lifeful anymore. Because then you either lose your Prio with, you know, Boomerang, or what you now have to run is Turbine, your nuke damage with Frond Whip, your coverage with Narco Hit, or your healing with Lifeful Sap. You have to get rid of one of those, and you don't want to get rid of any of them. I mean, and I don't think Saku was like top tier before, but it's just another nature getting hit for no reason, and win for that matter. It was just weird. It doesn't. Saku really hasn't been top tier for as long as I can remember, and if it needed a nerf at all, it should have been to its stats, because it got so many stats that it's now maybe a little overstated. But just remove some of those that were randomly added, and give it Boomerang back, please. Vlash actually feels pretty solid, but I don't think I can put it above B. It's still got that Earth weakness, but now that turn 1 damage is less, it's usually a lot more free to get a Madness buff off from when I tried it. So special sets are doing well, and then I haven't tried any Jack of all trades sets, but I have seen some other people running it to some success, because once again, Scavengers is a very strong trait, and now because your Tems aren't dying turn 1, because a lot of turn 1 damage is removed, then it's able to scale up and deal damage. So I think it's in a good spot, but not overpowered. And Halacho, hey, good to see ya. I'm doing better. I was pretty down on the patch all week, but I've played a few more games, refined my team a bit more, so it's better, and I think I got a decent grasp of things. But still not gonna be playing the patch a whole lot. Probably just like once a week, like I've been doing for the end of last patch. But we'll see what 1.7 brings. If they add Plague back to Lawali, Amphitheater, maybe I'll change things around. Oh, and Brock. Alhi. So Alhi's going to be in B tier, because melee typing is really valuable right now, and also wind typing it's one of the better wind types right now. So and it's not like mentals and digis are super common. I think Alhi's in a decent spot. Not great, but I think it's going to be a consideration on a lot of teams now, just because it's kind of one of your better counters to Earths. You just made a team for the tourney. You'll try to play a game or two before. I don't have enough time to do the full tourney, but that's why I kind of just trying to get the tier list done. I'm just on a bit of a stricter schedule today. Yeah, good luck though. I saw there were like 5 people signed up. I debated on bringing a 4 Earth and 4 Toxic team to the tourney, just to kind of prove that those teams types are ridiculous now with the changes. That it's insane they got overlooked. Playing with Not in his team. Like his Digi aggro or something else. Barnshee still feels a little underwhelming. I don't even know what you could do with it. I think the Tornado nerf hit it. and it's very sad because it didn't need that, but Tornado kind of needed to get hit for some of the other Tems. It's a nice turn 1 wind nuker with Air Specialist, and Neutrality still a crazy good trait. But it's like Barnshe has every move it could want and more. It's just got a kind of crappy stat typing, and now it can't hide behind Straw Shield, so it's a bit tough for it. It'll be short, best of 1 games. Yeah, but I've got to leave in like an hour 15. So the entire tournament would have to be half an hour, which I cannot do. I might be able to push it out to an hour, but yeah. Alright, Gyalis. Gyalis is okay. I don't think it's below or above the curve at all. It's kind of been in the same spot the last few times for the patch. It did get Glass Blade nerf, so it doesn't have turn 1 prio, and you could technically run Slingshot Glass Blade, which I gave a try and that felt really bad, so I wouldn't recommend it. You planning to stream it? Check later. Yeah, well, I'll probably head over and just raid you after the tier list stream then, and watch you for whatever time I've got left at the end. Mix lost Crystal Dirt, which is kind of meaningless. It's already got like Denigrate as its spread move of choice. It's kind of just a team check, and it has been for a while now. Puppet Master is just like, it's a, if you can ban out the opponent's spread options, then it's very strong. But if your opponent has a lot of spread options or has a lot of options to one-shot your mix, then it's pretty much a dead slot. So Refresh also got buffed so that it heals more, which makes it a lot easier for Mix to push itself out of Puppet Master range, which kind of gets awkward. So I'm not gonna put it above B here. So Raze would actually be worth considering putting on a tier list. I've heard a lot of great things about Raze, but I'm going to follow like the guidelines I've put, where I haven't been putting pre-evolutions on the tier list. But I would put Raze probably in minimum B-, maybe even B tier. I think Raze could be very strong now that it got Fiery Heist, and Fiery Heist got a little reworked. Raiken can't really take as great of advantage of those buffs, though. I don't think Raiken needs any changes. Maybe it does. I feel like it's a little underwhelming as a fire. It's still very reliant on neutrals. Motivator Raiken seems alright, but there's just not Tems that need so much stamina that it's super viable. I don't know. I think it's just Mono Fire's not a great type. Kind of like a Pyrus here too. I've seen a few Raikens. But you know, once again, Earth's everywhere. And nature's less common. Fire's just not always what you want on a team, I don't think. So this is actually going to be the first time I'm not going to put Pookie on a list. I'm not going to bother today. Piranhient, I genuinely feel like is a good Tem now. Just don't touch Piranhient ever again, and I'd be okay with it. So people have kind of been wondering, like, why? Why did Piranhient even get this patch? I don't remember. So the first big thing, the really big thing, is that Cold Geyser stamina buff. Like, it used to be 29 and it felt awful to click. Now you have... now it's only 25 stamina, which is the same as the rest of your rotation. You can save so many stamina TVs and be able to click Cold Geyser 3 times in a row. That means if you're faster than your opponents and you have... Like, I've been running it on my Mimit 2 Vine core. You can actually double Piranhient and freeze something turn 1. And it's super valuable. Also, it got Head Charge, where people are also like, why would you run Head Charge? It gets Nox Bomb. So Head Charge allows you to hit Acronox and Volphy for 2x damage, which are very relevant. It also allows you to hit Crystals 2x. So stuff like Tortonite and Chimerian, which walled it before, you can now hit for 2x. So like the big ones are Volphy, Acronox, and Chimerian. But it also gives a defense boost on Synergy, and you already want your Piranhient to be next to Crystals because you have H-Slap Synergy, and you're hitting the fires and earths that threaten the crystals as Piranhient, and your crystals are threatening the electrics that threaten Piranhient. So it's a great combo, and from my games I've played with Piranhients, because he's been on like over half of them, I think like I love him. I'm so glad that he's viable, and I'm going to be running him like the entire patch. Is Aohi still played physical? Nope, it's pretty much always special now. Every once in a while you'll catch somebody who's playing special just to catch people off guard, but special is better in my opinion. Every time. Okay, Scaravolt. So this is kind of interesting, but it's kind of the same problem I've had with Anatan, because Scaravolt should be very strong, because it has the turn 1 option with T-Strike that now is like the hardest hitting thing. I guess you got like Inky still, but Inky lost Prio, so there's not as many people running Inky. But there's so many Earths around. Like, so many Earths that Scarevolt's going to struggle. And also Toxics to whittle it down. It also lost Magma Cannon, which definitely is a hit for it, at least for the Good Friend set. But it doesn't need to be changed. It's just not a great meta for it. So like you can run it if it really fits your team, but it's not going to be like oh my gosh, it's so strong. Finally, yeah, Phantom Whiplash was a great change. A great addition to it. Hedgen also lost Magma Cannon. Got your general Hedgen nerf. I actually think Hedgen's doing alright right now. I think it kind of was struggling, honestly, but it's decent now. I don't think it needs to get buffed. I think it's going away gift set. I think going away gift just has to get reverted to what it was before the bug turned feature. But it's pretty much your microwave synergy enabler. So if you're running a Digiaggro core, I feel like it's a must slot. You also get synergy with your other fires for Hellfire, so it's pretty nice on those Digiaggro cores, but it's not just a slappable Digi anymore, but we've got a few other ones of those now, so that's fine. Osakai is an Earth, and it's a melee, so... But it can't just be based solely off of that. Osakai has always been kind of nice because it's got that scaling with hook while dealing damage. And it can take a hit now with its stat buffs it's got and just running reactive vial. But it needs speed support. If you can give it speed support, then it can really use its nukes, Dust Vortex, and Inner Spirit to your advantage. But if you don't have speed support, it's going to be a little underwhelming. But I don't think it needs any changes. It's pretty much got everything it wants. It's just going to be kind of up and down as metas go. Saipat. So Saipat lost V-Claws, which is pretty meaningful because all of a sudden your prio option went from like, what was V-Claws? Like 50 damage plus the 25% boost from Schween's Horn. Now you're stuck with Ice Cubes, which is like 25% less damage. It's really not crazy. So I think I'm still going to put Saipat in B+. You did lose Martial Strike though, so your turn 1 melee is pretty much gone. I never ran Martial Strike anyways, but some people will probably be disappointed by that. It does make your Volphy matchup worse. And that's going to kind of suck because Volphy's top tier purely by typing. Drakash. So I'm actually going to... This might be a hot take, but I think that Drakash is going to be B+ tier this patch. Because Heat Discharge got buffed way too much, and then it also combos just way too well with the new Has Trap item. So all of a sudden, as soon as this thing dies, you're trapping and burning your opponent. And if you don't have a water type to deal with it, it's already problematic. There are a lot of Earths around, but it also is an Earth. But I mean, it kept Fiery Soul and Mud Shower. It has Dust Vortex, Hellfire, and Fire Nado for higher damage hold moves. its kit's pretty loaded. This thing's got really high stats too. Like you can't. It's probably a 3-hit KO if you're trying to hit it with neutral special hits. Like a Windburst Tornado probably wouldn't even put it below 2/3 from something like Tolkien anymore. So yeah, I think Drakash is actually going to be pretty solid this patch. Tortonite. Oh my goodness, how did they ignore Tortonite like it is? I think you could almost put this in A+ tier. They're like, oh, we'll remove Rotten Goo. Rotten Goo was not the problem. The problem was they gave it too many stats. Removing Rotten Goo does is, one, make it so you can't disable your opponent's talisman, which I never saw like anyone do. And two, it makes it so that the offensive, like the cool offensive efficient set, is no longer viable. Like, I understand that they were just following suit with the patch, or they didn't want Tems to have like prio in both stabs, but I don't know. So it's not great offensively. First they nerfed Deluge, and now they remove Rotten Goo. This thing's practically dead as far as offensive stats are concerned. They also removed or lowered its special attack. So they've set in stone that they want this thing to be a hard stall Tem. Well, congratulations, Crema. You got your hard stall Tem. They buffed Untangle too. They buffed how Confined worked, so now anything that traps would give the boost. Still's got Court Shield and Doom with Tortonite's Garden, so I don't like this. It's pretty much on every stall team, and stall is like half the matches I play now. So I see Tortonite in like half my games. Okay, Inky got hit pretty hard. I think it's in a good spot though. Like, it's still your extremely high damage Tem, but now it's not free to... I should say the special set isn't free to just kill stuff fast. Because the big thing was, right before Inky would die, it could get off a DC beam. If you hit that on like historically a Tolkien v Inky was very common. If you use that on a Tolkien, all of a sudden you do like 70% of the Tolkien's health. Literally. And there's nothing the Tolkien can do about it, even though like you have type advantage, and if your Inky's chipped at all, you could just Fiery Soul to finish it off. Well, now Spec Inky doesn't have that. But Fizz Inky is now a little different because it still has Prio with Sharp Stabs and Paizo. But it's also 4x weak to Earth, so I don't think we'll see a whole lot of Inky this patch, but you know, it's something to keep in mind for sure. It still does its job. It's just a little different. Shellant, I played around with Shellant a lot last patch. I thought that Welcomer nerf was going to be a lot harsher for it, but it actually still feels pretty good. And it's got a great support moveset with Haito, Kesugatame, Zen Med. I think it's also got Execution. I don't think anyone's going to run it, but it does have it. Yeah, I don't think really Shellant needs changes. I think if anything, you buff its special attack stat a little bit for bruiser sets to be viable, but definitely not essential. Or you give it Hook back. Because Martial Strike lost Prio, so Hook and Martial Strike are different. Cycrox. Man, I don't know. I actually don't think Cycrox is doing that great this patch. So as a Doomer, it's not great because it doesn't have, like, with all the stall teams, they're going to have anti-Doom tech. Reset Waspine being so common is probably the main one. And offensive Cycrox isn't great. They buffed Water Synthesizer last patch, and it didn't do anything. And I don't know, I think Cycrox needs something different. Like, it just feels kind of bad, and I couldn't even really tell you why. Because I like Cycrox. I think it's offensively, it's a cool type. It covers both of Roller's weakness, or all of Roller's weaknesses, 2x. But when I tried them together for like a long time, it never worked out. It feels bad, and I don't know why. Also, like, Strangle and Adrenaline Shot got nerfed, even though most of the times it ran Reactive Vial. Pocus, I don't know. Pocus still feels kind of underwhelming. The whole thing Pocus does is slow down, but now that Lowaddle lost roots, it lost its best partner for that. So I mean Pocus still doesn't heal off Denigrate. Its other traits, Dreaded Alarm, is still kind of a joke. I actually tried it a little bit and it did nothing. It was so bad. It's still like a mental nuker, but you've got other mental nukers you can run. I don't think Pocus would ever really be your mental of choice. Playing an Anonymous team with Waterston, it's not that bad. Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of like really bad water weaknesses on that team though. I guess I could see it, but every time I've tried it, it's felt bad. And something so... it's being reduced to needing right predictions every single time. You need to know exactly when your opponent's going to click a water move. And if they don't click a water move, you have to know that. So if every move is down to a coin flip, that's not really healthy either. Situational and coin flippy, yeah. Golzy. So the hasty lunge change I think is really it's really great. I think it's a lot of fun to play around. I tried it out with Minotaur, but I'm assuming it transfers with Golzy. I think the thing is that Golzy didn't lose anything else. It's probably situational, but the whole thing is, so hasty is 80 BP, uppercut's 80 BP, and it has both turn 1 and turn 2. You've got Oshidashi. You could run a little bulkier Golzy set since you don't always have Prio now, and you can run Show Off or Charged Iron Filings or whatever you want, and it's still pretty strong. I'd say maybe a little too much though, but not by much. Mashuk. Oh, okay. Yep. Insta A+. So with Winds getting hits and. So the interesting thing with Mashuk is apparently now you can't OX turn 1. Even with minimum stamina and like exhausted wastewater or wastewater into like perfect jab, supposedly you can't OX. You have to wastewater, you have to either double wastewater or wastewater turbo to OX for the tireless boosts. But they also fixed tireless, so now you do take that half damage from OX, which was really important, and it's just there's not a lot of things that counter it. It's got speed control, does damage, super tanky, scales for free, can't OX, like there's nothing that really stops it except damage or if it ends itself, but it gets too much value at that point. It feels awful to play against, and it hits Earths, so yeah. Mastion, I've been playing a lot of Mastion. I think it feels pretty good. It's not top tier. It's not even B+ tier. But it doesn't need any changes. I think it's good as is. His bulk feels a little bad, but it's just so overloaded in attack. I learned that you don't go max attack on your Mastion. You put like 100 or even almost 200 in some of your defenses to kind of balance them out. And then it feels really nice. Especially with Mimit. Ukama got turbo back. It's a water choice. It's not bad, it's not good. It's a choice of water. It did lose damage on Aquatic Whirlwind, which kind of hurts it. Especially since if you look at its stats, it's actually not that overwhelming in the first place. But there's enough toxics around to justify running Ukamas on most teams just for that water cannon value. Also, Acronox pairing. Ragnit. So Ragnit got Electromagnetism, and it lost Cage, which is kind of... I think Electromagnetism is a really good move now. But Ragnit has so many moves it wants to run already that it's kind of like... It's kind of an overload, but I don't think it needs any changes. He's got good stats, but if it really wants to exceed in any of them, it has to invest. Like if you want a faster Ragnit, you have to invest in speed. If you want a Ragnit that does damage, you gotta invest in attack. It can run Taser, but the thing is, it's kind of awkward. It doesn't have great Taser options. Where if you have a Digi, you can run Electro Punch, but most Digis don't appreciate Ragnit as much anymore. I guess you might still do it because you can hit waters that way. But then I don't know. Ragnit's alright. I don't think it needs any changes. Yeah. Ignore the last statement I said about it, because most digis probably do still run it. Yeah, yeah, I realized that. It's just, I was thinking more in like mid-range team, you're probably not going to run it. Even if you have an electric weakness, it's just, it feels awkward if you don't have digis next to it. It feels very awkward. Because Paizo and Sparkling Bullet aren't the best moves to play around if it doesn't feel like. Because if you're running Sparkling Bullet, you're going to want to run slingshots to actually deal damage. And if you're... But then you lose taser value. So I'm not sure. Definitely feels a little goofy. Alright, so let's go for Size Munch now. I've been playing Size Munch. I think it feels pretty good, but it's still not great. I thought as soon as they buffed its special defense so much last patch that it was going to soar up in the meta, but it never did. I don't think I can put it in B+ tier, but I think situationally it could be higher ranked, but I think in general it's just going to be a solid B, kind of like Ostakai. The thing is, it's still littered with weaknesses, even though it doesn't have to worry about natures as much. The thing is, Volphy is still very prevalent and is like the most prevalent nature, and so a couple plagues will take you down pretty bad. Zyzer. Oh man, so Zyzer's finally out of C tier. It's finally good. It got 4 HP in droughts. I don't like it. 4 HP is just kind of whatever. I don't like you'd have to do a whole bunch of calcs to find a reasonable breakpoint that changed, and I can't think of one at all. Besides that, like drought. So people are saying drought's a really nice turn 3 move because you use Stone Ball turn 1 when you get your rested boost. You click a Piercing Wheel turn 2 also with your rested boost, and then turn 3 you click drought. And to me, that's a weird rotation. Like, having that as an option is fine, sure. But you're lowering your opponent's defense with Piercing Wheel. You're going to want to follow that up with a second hit, probably. Unless you're finishing them off with Piercing Wheel, which, you know, maybe you are. But the thing is, you still don't have anything that can hit outside of, like, any Earth Resist. You don't have anything that can hit Waters, Natures, or Winds. Clinch is a joke. Hardest hitting time in the game. I know, but that's its niche. If you're running Zyzare, you are running it with Naga or you are running it with 2-wire. That is what you're doing. There are no exceptions. If you are running Zyzare outside of those, it sucks. So it is, like, in specific pairings, it is insane, and it is useless, like, outside of that. And I don't think that's good for a temp. Some people disagree with me. Some people say that, like, that's fine. I don't think that's good. Like, I'm not going to say that Scaravolt is top tier because you can pair it with Nidosil and then Side Spores to get your full HP bar back. No, I'm not going to say that. I don't think it's that good. Like, if all of a sudden you ban Naga on a Naga team and you're not packing 2-wire, your Zyzar all of a sudden, your value goes way down. Especially if you invested speed on it, because now your Stone Ball is as slow as... It's still the slowest thing in the game. And it's not like... So the thing was, like, the Naga and 2-wire combos, they existed last patch, and the patch before that, and the patch before that. And Zyzar has still never seen a lot of use. It hasn't. Like, as far as what changed this patch, nothing. I think if anything changed this patch that makes Zyzar more viable, it's because it's an Earth type, and Nature's got gutted, and Winds got gutted. So, we can put it in B-. But this is purely... Excuse me? It didn't... Okay, I guess the website didn't like me putting Zyzar in B-. So, it's exclusively because of the current meta situation that I would put Zyzar in B-. Ugh, we got a lot to go. I'm gonna speed things up. Okay, Gorong. Gorong got a Seismic buff, which, if you're playing a math team, makes it insane. Sazax can vouch for it. I do hate Gorong. I think he's come up with a really great combo that's just a complete mental check. And not that he doesn't have counters to mentals, but the thing is such a pain to deal with. It's still super bulky. And yeah, it frustrates me. It's not unbeatable. You know, we're gonna put it in B plus. I think it's kind of stupid now. I don't even think you run tireless anymore. I think you just run seismic, and you get a lot of value. Melly, hello, good to see ya. Sandbee. Sandbee's actually felt really underwhelming for a number of patches now, and it's kind of weird because I don't even know what you would do to change it. Seismic Marvel was a lot of damage just for existing. Yeah, it is really bad. On lead, you all of a sudden get 30% damage. Where's Raise? I know. So I've never put middle or baby evolutions on this tier list. So, and because of that, I didn't. But I did say that it would be in like a minimum B minus, but probably B tier. Yeah, I'm gonna put Sandbee in B minus. It's felt underwhelming for the last few patches. And nothing got changed about it. I don't know what you would change about it. I think what Sandbee kind of wants is more speed. Or I think, honestly, if you gave Sandbee new head charge, that would be fantastic. But maybe that would be too much with dozing hits. I'd love to see it, though. I know people were saying that it should get it. I want Sandbee to get new head charge, though. So, that's my opinion. Momo. I hate Momo. I hate Momo so much. It actually really benefits from the refresh buff. Not like really, but it's already a nuker. If it's faster than you, you're going to die. And if you can't kill it in time, it's pretty nasty. And now that a lot of Tems are losing prio, you aren't able to finish it off or get a meaningful chip on it. I found myself fighting one yesterday, and because Tuvine didn't have Turbine, I couldn't outspeed and kill it. Just straight up. I could not kill it because I didn't have any remaining prio because so much of it got removed from the game. So, yeah, it felt bad to play against. Karen, oh my goodness, stop. I need to stop seeing. No, why? That's so weird. I've been on this exact website, this exact tier list, and it's like, oh, just get an ad blocker. Yeah, I guess I should. I don't care, though. Okay, so Karen has everything it wants to, and now two of the types that effectively countered it are practically gone. It has Stonewall, Roar, Psychosis, Petrify, Soil Steam. I've even seen a willpower drain one. So it's got a moveset of like everything it wants to. It's got insane stats. Like the thing is so bulky. It's got free healing with Scavenger. And just plain Earth is a decent defensive typing for sure. And since Stall is so prevalent, it got great. Like there's more raid bosses to choose from. Just better partners overall. I hate this thing. It's not good. I can't even explain it. It's just it's got everything it wants to. This thing needs to get nerfed. Otherwise it's going to keep running the meta. Along with some of those other A tiers. Cerny still feels underwhelming. You could maybe because it's got Water Cutting Lily, you could argue for B-, but its attack stats so low. You have to get settling boosts on it before it's viable at all. I'm not a fan. I'm really not. I think you could give Cernif new head charge as well. Have to start your stream, you're late. Sounds good, thanks for stopping in. I'll try and remember to rage afterwards. Good luck with the tournament. Yeah, Cernif, it struggled kind of in stall for a while, just to find a use at all. Actually, it didn't get anything this patch, and it was already kind of struggling. I don't know what you could give it, but once again, it's another nature. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 natures in C and below. The only nature above, so far, is, well, Nidrasil, which is hardly a nature, and then Baboa, which is 4x weak to Toxic. So that is not a good sign. Nox. I've actually been playing around with Nox. on my team, and it feels great. So surprisingly, the pollution change feels amazing. So paralyzing poison without synergy does 3 turns of poison and lowers attack and special attack. Well, pollution at the same hold all inflicts 3 turns of poison on both opponents and lowers their stamina bars by 1/3 each. So essentially, I'm just using it as a turbo hypnobot to gain speed advantage. Pollution is like normal prio, by the way. It's not low prio. I always thought it was low prio. For a long time I did. So all of a sudden you gain speed advantage. You sleep your opponents. You target down 1 slot. You can even get the pollution on your opponent the turn that they're sleeping, and it won't wake them up because it doesn't do damage. And then the poison ticks will just start racking up. It's pretty much the same as an allergic spread on Nidrasil, except it's on a meaningful hold, and it lowers your special attack, or your stamina. And I mean, on Nox it feels good, at least on the set I'm running. I don't think it's crazy or anything, but it's certainly worth considering. I think the thing that holds it back is that it doesn't hit toxics. So Guldur, like also the other pollution tem, it still just feels bad. Guldur is like an HP tank, but HP tanks just don't feel super viable. It spreads toxic ticks, but it's the only thing it really does. But I mean, like, there's not a lot of wins around. It just sucks. Why? Like, I know wins had to get nerfed, but why don't you nerf toxics? Like, if they just nerf toxicing to only be 1 turn of poison, that would help so much. Not enough, but it would be something to start. I don't know, I don't even think that'll be enough at all, but it's just... trying to kill Guldur with neutral hits kind of sucks. There's not a whole lot of wins. And once again, like, you'll look at Turok and Tuvain, and both of them got hit pretty bad. At least Tuvain still counters Guldur because it's faster than it, doesn't need Turbine. But, yeah, it's still like a 3-hit KO with 2x damage to kill a Guldur. Which is probably good for it. I don't think anything less would be healthy. Oh boy, Vola, my favorite. This is one of the other temps running the meta right now. It's on like every team. It's the best wind and the best toxic. Oh, who would have guessed? I think it's better than Mashuk and Nid because guess what? It counters both of them. It even hits Naga and kind of Kaurin, so it's just crazy. It was already strong before. It has a kit full of everything it wants, and nowadays people are back to running Strange Vest on it. So you have no idea which type of damage to even hit it with. And if you're like me and you're running like a almost entirely physical team, and this thing happens to be Strange Vest, all of a sudden it's just going to run you through. And it has turn 1 of both stabs. On its physical set, it has Feather Gatling and Nox Bomb. And it has, on a special set, it has Wind Burst and V-Gust. It also has Toxic Plume, which now that, you know, crystals are gaining more synergies and becoming slightly more viable that way, it's... like, and especially on a stall set, when it gained good partners like Tortonite and Waspian, it's able to get Toxic Plume synergies off and lower attack of your team. I don't know, there's everything Vola wants, it has. Which traits you run on Vola? Both are good. Both are great. I think the anaerobic set sees more play and is generally stronger, but I do not think aerobic is behind it much at all. If you want my opinion on what to change on it, remove Feather Gatling, and I don't know, maybe give it to Bree Typhoon. I don't know. I was gonna say Turbine initially. I wish there was like a hold wind move that didn't have prio, a physical wind move, because I don't think there's a whole lot, if any at all. It's just kind of a little awkward that way. But yeah, Vola's insane. I hate it. Grumper. They made like a joke of a change on Grumper. Like gave it tenderness and made it lose Mud Shower. Who cares? The thing's still like B tier. It's alright. I think the problem is that it's an Earth type that's also weak to other Earth types. But in general, I do like the thing. I don't think it needs any changes. I just don't think it's the best meta for it. So I would just leave it as is. Stop changing it, please, Chroma. It doesn't need it. I never ran Mud Shower. I think Sludge Gift is always your good go-to turn one, but you know. Gazuma. I think Gazuma's A tier. Even though it lost Tornado and only has Hurricane, thing is that Gazuma is a speed control machine. Tesla Prison Turbo are already your go-tos, but it has Electromagnetism now too. That's a viable move. I don't think you'd really run it. Like, I think the biggest problem with Gazuma is that its wind damage isn't meaningful, but its defensive typing and just stats make up for it. And you pretty much cannot kill the thing before it gets a turbo off, and it does do damage with Tesla Prison and Electric Storm. It's got like, I think it's tied with Grumper for the second highest special attack stat of all electric types, only behind Volgon, which has an insane one. Oshiara is pretty good this patch too. Now that more things are losing prio, especially the Plaguers, that it gets to roam a lot more free. And get like Cerbatios up, and I don't think it's A+ material. I think there's enough Toxics around to keep it in check, and Electrics are still somewhat viable, but among water types, I'd say it's top tier. I just don't think there's a lot of great waters. As you can see, there's a lot of them in like B tier. But I think it's like right there with Saipat. If you're running waters, you're probably running Oshiara Saipat. Maybe you're running something else, and maybe you got an Acronox and you're running a water cannon user, but I think those are mostly your go-to waters right there. Yowler. I still hate Yowler. It's basically like if you don't have a mental type, it's gonna hurt you, and now that it's got a few more support options and with like stall allies, it's a huge pain. It's still got like Toughen, so you can Toughen, Winter's Call, Hibernate, and Clinch sets, which they don't do a whole lot of damage, but you can't really ever kill them. So on a stall team, you're pretty much guaranteed going to get some buffs up and then eventually start killing stuff, because your opponents are going to run out of stamina and you're just going to be sitting pretty. So I don't think it's above B+. It's not among the toppest tiers, but it's still a little above average, I'd say. Gario, I guess, is another one of your good waters. Less natures means Gario stonks up. It did lose Clay Ball, but that only really affects the Kaleidoscope sets. Everyone else pretty much runs the same Soil Steam. Cold Geyser was a nice buff as well for this. Rockfall, and then your choice of a fill slot of Aquastone, Water Jet, Earthbreaker. So Gario's pretty solid. Broccolum kind of back in C tier. It was finally out of C tier after. Actually, I don't even know. I think they just gave it more stat buffs to finally. I don't think it needed them, but it was one way to help it out. It lost Plague. It doesn't have your turn 1 nature anymore. It doesn't have Prio. They gave it more attack in the Revitalize. Even though they gave it Revitalize, I haven't seen any of the stall players using it. I've seen Workman running Revitalize on Brockwork, which is kind of funny that Brockwork is being used more than Broccolum, probably. I tried Broccolum, and it feels so bad without having that Prio finisher and without having a turn 1 nature. Because now, like, Saipat can't do anything to a Broccolum turn 1. But guess what? Now Broccolum can't do anything to a Saipat turn 1. That's horrible. Like, all of a sudden, one of your best counters is all of a sudden useless. And so Saipat can roam free and target your other slot turn 1. It's just not healthy. But maybe it is healthy. Oh, Schween. Oh, Schween, another A+ tier. This thing has after the buffs, it is the second highest stat total Tem in the entire game. It was already really hard to kill. I did the Kelks immediately after the patch, and using a Plague from the Wally, which is still your like one of your best turn 1 nature nukers, to a max HP double screen Shween does less than 2/3. So essentially, a strong turn 1 2x as well as a strong neutral like 1x onto Shween does not kill a turn 1. So you're almost guaranteed to get at least one fluid barrier off, probably a quartz shield as well. And if you don't have that 2x immediately on the board, like what if it comes in on a death swap or something? Oh, just you're doomed. This thing's getting one of your Tems up to at minimum like +2, +4 defense. And if that's on a stall team, it's just nightmarish. You better have your Waspine unbanned so you can reset. Not that you're dealing damage. I guess stall sets doesn't matter. It's just on a stall team against any other aggressive team. But it's just not good. That thing needed to die faster. I don't care that it has lowish base HP and defense. It's got a crazy good defensive typing and enough stats and crazy defensive moves that it just shouldn't be able to function infinitely. Nesla didn't really get changed. It got a little nerf to Aquatic Whirlwind. I think it got a small special attack buff too, like +3 special attack. It doesn't feel like it does much more. Like the special attack's probably just to offset the Aquatic Whirlwind a little bit, because that buff or nerf was targeted at Platamus and maybe Ukama. So it's just Nestle's got a nice typing. It'll fit on some teams and not on others. I don't think it needs any changes, but I don't think it's above average. It's good where it's at. Valiar. Like I was saying earlier, I don't think evasion teams are really the way to go, because most of them don't have a lot of ways to break through stall teams. I used to run Digithreat on my evasion team. It was like a Doom evasion team, and I kind of like that. But after the Digithreat nerfs, like I got a lot of that team nerfed after winning that tournament ages ago. Valiar's fine. It's still super threatening, and I think most people who see it on a team are going to ban it. Plus, you lost a lot of prio. It's not all meaningful prio in this situation. Like, Digis are still able to hit you. Crystal Spikes didn't get hit. I guess those are kind of sharp stabs. Hasty Lunge, I guess, you could argue is better, but maybe worse. You still have effective denial anyways. But your stuff like Plague being removed from like everything, all of a sudden Lawali doesn't have a good matchup into you. Amphithere's not the best unless it's running max speed sort of thing. Well, Yard does have Black Hole too, so it's probably decent. Lawaddle. So I don't think Lawaddle's horrible. I think Data Corruption change was really good for it. I think that it lost Roots, which is kind of feels bad because it was really interesting it was interesting, probably unhealthy, as a Voodoo speed control support. But now it has Data Corruption to lower special defense, which is kind of a crazy move. If you can get it off, which it's now high prio, it's 8 stages of special defense drop on your opponent's team, which is probably just as good as a penance. So if you can Data Corruption into a penance on a special attacker, you're guaranteed to only have to take 1 hit. Even in penance getting changed to be 100% recoil, like, I'm sorry for anyone who thought that was healthy. That was my suggestion. But I hated penance. You getting Lawaddle on control teams, getting those penances off for free was really bad. You would invest no offensive stats and all of a sudden still run through teams because you're +8/+8. So I don't think Lawaddle's bad. I think the biggest hit was losing Straw Shield, and I think we'd still see some people play around with it. But compared to where I would have put it in like a theoretical last patch after like mid-season, I think it would have been like B+ A tier. but now so that's a pretty significant drop. It just doesn't look like it. Calibus got no changes except like -4 special defense. I think it's fine though. I think the problem is just that it gets outclassed by a lot of other toxics. Just because other toxics are better right now, but I don't think Calibus needs to be changed at all. Adoro. Adoro lost Beta Burst and gained Size Surge. It's a very weird change. I think it's okay because Adoro's like a weird bulky tank, and it still has Emanip as a turn 1 option. Like, I'm gonna put it in B because I don't think it should get changed at all. I think the Adoro change is one that would make a lot of sense and be really good if like similar changes happened across the board to all Tems. But because that didn't happen, the Adoro change looks really weird in isolation. Really weird. But I don't think it's that bad. I think the biggest problem is that Emanip wants to be next to Natures, and 6 Natures in C and below. So, that's tough. Alright, the 2 eyes. Tukai. I've seen some people having some success with Tukai. I still hate the thing. So the thing is, like, you're getting a lot of value with Spreader. Like, you're increasing your damage by quite a bit. The problem is you're not getting KOs. You are not able, like, Tukai, it's a very weird temp because it is not necessarily a carry. It looks like it's meant to be an offensive carry, and it is not. It is more what I would consider like a damage support. Where it can get your opponents into kill range for another temp to finish off. I don't know if there's any other temps that really have that same role, to be honest. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but that is what Tukai is. And it's a really weird niche that not a lot of Tems want to support. There's not a lot of cleaners in the game, so what I generally consider cleaners are just anything that can finish off stuff at high speeds and like low health Tems. I consider Saipat to be a cleaner. I consider Auhi to be a cleaner. Wherever I put that. Yeah, Saipat, Auhi, and Kapire. Those are the main 3 cleaners that I consider, because Kapire's got Last Rush, Auhi has Ignis, and Saipat just has raw damage that can usually finish stuff off. So maybe Tukai works if you're running with one of those 3, but I've tried it with Auhi before and it feels bad. I've tried it on other teams before and it feels bad. Hydrologist doesn't actually do that much damage. Somebody did a calc with like Hydrologist Nox Bomb Tukai, and its damage was very sad. I think it does less than like, was it a Cold Geyser from Baraniant or something? I don't know. It was some crazy low damage. Not that you run it physical, you'd run it special still. It's just funny, the calcs on Tukai, you'd think it's crazy good, but it's not. I guess, you know, maybe Spreader Tukai is kind of in the same boat as Seismic Marble's Gorong, because you're just kind of getting raw damage output, and then you need something to finish it off later. I could see that. Maybe on a team. Sazax, maybe check it out. Maybe he already does. I don't have his team memorized. But it's in an awkward spot. I don't know what you'd change about it. I guess if anything, the Tornado nerf hit it. And that's why it just kind of feels bad. I think we need another special wind move, just so we can kind of differentiate between Tornado and some of these other Tems that didn't deserve that nerf. Tolkien. This is probably an interesting one, because it was more or less like Tolkien lost Fiery Soul and gained Magma Cannon. And I think Tolkien's okay now. I think you could almost argue for Old Heater, where it only affects the enemy team. That's probably a little unhealthy, though. I think it's good like this. I wouldn't change Tolkien. I think we just gotta hit some of the other stuff around. I know some people are saying it's understated. It did feel a little bit understated, but that's just because everything else has insane stats. So maybe you could get like 5 or 10 in something, maybe in speed. But I wouldn't, honestly, I wouldn't touch it. I've seen enough of Tolkien, and still got a crazy good defensive type, so I say just leave it as is. Tuvine. So Tuvine's very interesting. Its playstyle feels different, even though I don't think it's a whole lot different. I'm just going to put it in B tier while I talk, but it lost Turbine. It lost a little bit of speed. It gained a ton of stamina, which was like it's one of its biggest problems, and it gained Mineral Hail. The awkward thing is that Tuvine does not have a lot of moves at all. It's always kind of had like last patch it had like 3 good moves. It had Crystal Plume, Feather Gatling, and Turbine. And you could basically just run H-Slap as your last slot, but it really didn't help you a whole lot. Some people even ran Peck just for like a really fast and cheap way to finish something off. But then they remove one of those 3 viable moves. They give it Mineral Hail, which is like whatever. You can run it. Tuvine was spread, sure. I haven't touched it. It doesn't do anything for me. They gave it Diamond Fort a few patches back, which is super situational. I think people probably click it like once out of every 10 games. Maybe not even that often. And then they buffed Mirror Shell too, which is what I'm running. But I hardly ever click that too. Maybe once out of 20 games. It's at least normal prio now, so if you're facing some slow special attack tank, you can get it off. I think I clicked it against a Taifu and it was kind of nice. But Taifu was underwhelming as is. I mean, if Tuvine feels really good with Mimit or other crystals for H-Slap combo, but it's, yeah, I can't justify putting in a B+. Losing that prio really hurts it. Gotta go, gonna watch the VOD later. Sounds good, thanks for stopping in, Beast. Have a good one. Prepare your speed with Raise. Yeah, you can, it's still a good partner for speed control, because you can pair it with like Quicksand or Turbo and have good synergies with it. Or, yeah, Raise if you really want. It's got a good stat spread, and it still feels pretty strong. And Determined, I think, is still the better trait, but I don't know. I'm just going to leave it in B tier. I think it's in a worse spot than it was last patch. I think last patch it was B+. So, yeah, we'll leave it there. Turok feels bad now. So, my opinion, it should have gotten Earthbreaker, not Earthwave. I think Earthwave is a bad move. It lost Stoneball and Soil Steam, so it doesn't have a turn 1 Earth anymore. Rockfall is good, and it still clicks that. It still has Feather Gatling and Turbine, but when you can't threaten out Earth Week's turn 1, it's pretty meaningful. It's just a different playstyle. The thing is, like, the whole point of giving it Earthwave is so that it can combo better with Tack Strike. So it should probably just be a buff to Tack Strike again, and then maybe Earthwave will see more use, and Turok will be in a better spot. So I think just the minor change it should just be a buff to Tack Strike, maybe even to Power Bank. We'll see. Part of why Raids is a lot better is less prio around. A lot of there's not that much prio that got removed, if we're being honest. It's basically Fiery Soul from Tolkien and Plague from a lot of natures, and Raze already didn't care about being in front of natures. I don't even know what other prio got hit. Hasty Lunge is now it needs synergy. I'm just looking through everything else and I'm not really seeing. I guess we lost like V-Claws and Martial Strike. Just kind of finishers, but that doesn't matter a whole lot. Alright, so 2-wire is just whatever. I wasn't initially a fan of one-turn common factor, but it's really grown on me. I think it's pretty nice. I'm not a fan also of Turbo Attack getting removed in favor of Cyberclaw. I don't know why it can't just have both and choose the option, but Krem's got other plans. So we're gonna leave it in B tier. It does what it wants to. Some people say it does it well, some people say it could be better. Become less over months in general, not just this patch. I don't even know. I don't think they've changed a whole lot of prio, to be honest. Could be wrong, though. Maybe it's just happened over time, so I just haven't cared much. Tutu. Tutu feels pretty good. It's kind of the same reasons as Owlhe, where its typing is just really good. Tag Team's still strong, and now it has Head Charge, which is like a meaningful, slightly higher damage melee move, and being able to buff your defenses as kind of like a more aggressive support. It's different from a damage support of Tukai. It's like this is just an offensive support. I think it's a good thing for Tutu. It's been really nice to have around in my games. It's really nice to be able to run 2-2-2 Vine and feel good about it again. That's something I will say. But once again, Tutu doesn't have prio, so that feels bad. And no, Tornado doesn't count. It's become... Oh, yeah. Kinu... It's so weird. Kinu got, like... minus stamina, but got a little bit of HP in defense. That doesn't help it. It's got a good move set. It looks like what they're trying to do is turn it into like a bulky denigrate user. But Kinu's just a heal support. It's a heal and turbo support. And I think it strives mostly as a turbo hypno support, because that combo is just very strong. But if you're looking for a turbo hypno support, you're probably going Grandpa or Nox. Like, those two are just going to be your better options. I guess Kinu offers a little bit more with like Protector and Benefactor as far as like support goes, but you're pretty much limited to Beta Burst, Resin Trap, Hypno, and Turbo as your moveset. At least with Nox, you're only running one offensive attack, you got a better defensive typing, and you have like Pollution. With Grandpa, you're, I guess, more aggressive oriented. Kinu's fine install. There's one game where it hard carried you, otherwise it's been solid. I think the problem is that it's just because stall is ridiculous, and you could probably find success with just about anything in stall. Stall really appreciates a healer support. And there's not a whole lot of them in the game in general. Because outside of Nidrasil, what do you even have? Like you pretty much have like Baboa or yeah, Kinu. So also in general, not so many mentas you play install. Yeah, I mean you got Gallios now, but it's more of just a lack of other options that you land on Kinu, and not that Kinu is good. So Volcrane. Volcrane got Fiery Ballad, and I think it is a fine and good B tier. It wanted something to raise its speed ever since it lost Slingshot. Like the Slingshot that raised speed from low damage moves. And, you know, it has it now. And having a turn 2 meaningful fire move is also pretty nice. I played it, and it felt good. There's also less waters around. And earth types are pretty strong. So, I think if people experiment with it more, they'll maybe see some use. It's still... I think the biggest problem is that it doesn't have any good wind partners, because all those winds got nerfed. What it wants to be next to is Lawali. It really wants to be next to Lawali, but Lawali hardly counts as a wind. It's a wind for support purposes, and the other issue is like most of the winds that it does want to be next to can just click turbo anyways, and then it's just the same thing, and Fiery Ballad just next to nothing. The only thing is you could be +3 speed instead of +2 speed, so if that's meaningful, you can maybe save some TVs, but... That's about the extent of it. But I think it's good. I don't think Volcrane really needs to be changed much anymore. Pig. Pig's okay. I actually faced an aggressive pig yesterday. It was kind of a pain to deal with, because I wasn't expecting a max speed and max attack pig. And that's literally what it was. I think it's good on stall teams. Just once again... I guess it can be a healer support too with Divine Inspiration. Probably not the best, not the worst. I really don't feel like it needs to be changed. I think Pig's in an alright spot. If anything, I'd like a little boost to its offensive set. But it doesn't deserve to be put in B- purely because its stall set's doing alright. But even in stall, it doesn't feel overwhelming. Most times I face Pigs, I can take them out relatively quick, which makes me pretty happy. Uh, considering most stall temps. Acronox, yeah, straight to A+. Sick of this thing. Two of the best typings in the game. It's got Prio, Sting. It's literally the best move in the game, probably. Maybe not, but like it's one of them. Prio, Stab, 2 turns of Toxic. Traps with Cobweb. Otherwise, you can get a free resist with Book Lungs. Crazy value. It's also got Petrify if you're playing slower team. If you're running it next to Ukama or Whiplump, you can do Venom Spread and just threaten out so many things. It's only got 2 weaknesses as is. It's countered by a Volorend, but yeah. Sting isn't a good move, though. Sting is a very good move. It's maybe not good against Stall. But yeah, nature's all over the C tier. Like, that's what I'm saying. Nature practically doesn't exist as a type anymore. It works incredibly well for Acronox. Okay, sure. That's a way to put it. It works well in the specific scenario. We'll go through Koishas again later. Volphy. Volphy I'm not going to put in A+. But I'm going to put in A because it is like the most viable offensive nature. So if you want, you're pretty much, Volphy is almost an insta-slot on every team now because you want a nature and Volphy's like your, well, I shouldn't say that because we haven't gone through Chimerian or Tyrannac. It's Chimerian, Tyrannac, and Volphy are all way too strong, but it's not because of that individually, it's just by comparison. Because, like, Volphy doesn't have a turn 1 Earth. It has Dust Vortex. I'll tell you about Stall Volphy, though. Put it in A+. I'm fine with that. I hate Volphy. Like, it's I could say it's either purely by comparison reasons, or I could say it's because of stall reasons. I actually haven't seen a whole lot of stall Volphys. Any, to be honest. But yeah, being a healer support, once they get Kaleidoscope fixed, and then like Bush Synergy, because you're running Coward anyways, Earth type's good. Every match is the hard carry. Yeah, so basically everything with Volphy is good right now. It's just... like, Volphy was actually in a good spot last patch. I don't think I would have changed Volphy at all, and they didn't. It's just that they nerfed everything else, so it's kind of an insta-slot. It sucks. I don't like it. Well, that's how it is. Waspian. So Waspian's actually pretty solid now. I wouldn't say it's top tier, but I think it's like B+ now. The new Swarmade with now like 2 holds, it's basically where it used to be, except it doesn't have an exhaust and it's focused more on healing. I guess Waspian's another heal support. So I guess there's more than I think. Waspian's, it feels so strong on stall teams again. But I think they changed it in a good way. I like the changes. Waspian changes are one of the better ones, I would say. Doesn't feel unbearing, but it's definitely up there. I don't think I'd put it in A tier either. It does its job. It does its job well. It's got Plasma Beam for good chip. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna leave it there. Moments. I actually haven't seen like any moments. This is kind of crazy. I don't even know why. I would think that Moments would be a pretty good raid boss. I haven't tried it out myself. Maybe it's just because there's no good stall mentals. Like, yeah, you got Kinu, but then you're stacking fire weakness. Scene 1 was terrible against your team, can't say more. I don't think Moments is bad. I don't think it's been experimented with a whole lot. But even then, I think it's pretty situational and just average about what it does. I don't think I'd put it above B this patch. I think I've done it historically, but I think it's kind of just in B tier now. Even if you're looking at using it offensively as a resin trapper, I don't think it's going to work out super well for you. So we'll leave it there. The Digithreat nerf hit it pretty bad whenever we go. Hazrat's still like A tier. I won't put it above that because it did lose V claws. But Hazrat's still the 10 damage on wastewater doesn't really hurt it. It still has a good solid turn 1 for both of its stabs. And situational prio with lava wave. Has burn with embers or toxin shower, so it's got like some like self-support options it can do. And it's got heat up for offensive scaling. It's got a good defensive typing, only 2 weaknesses, even though it does get walled by one of them. The other one it doesn't at all. So yeah. Hazrat's still very strong. Got an annoying trait. Oh, which one? An annoying trait. It will always have an annoying trait. Both of them are just, yeah, painful. Minotaur. So I really like Minotaur now. I don't think it really is above B tier. I think it's still the only thing that really changed with it was the hasty lunge now needs synergy with prio to get prio. But I think that's healthier for it. I think it's good. It's been fun to play with. It got Ruminant changed. I forgot about that. I actually like Ruminant more than Rusher, but that's just because I didn't like playing around Rusher, and getting a free resist and some potential attack up is, you know, it's good. I think the only thing I'd change with Ruminant is make it so that it works with allies, so that you can pair it with like Nidrasil, but I think Nidrasil needs to get worked like a few changes before I even bother doing that. But yeah, I like Minotaur now. It also is just, it's Ruminant is so funny. They add a trait that raises attack when it gets hit by a nature move, and then they just kill all the natures. It's kind of funny. No, it's very sad. Okay, Moala. Moala's weird. Do I even put it in B-? I think I put it in C. I haven't seen a Moala, like, even most of last patch. It lost Zenmed and Hypno got nerfed. Or Hypnotist got nerfed. Haka's always kind of been underwhelming. They've tried to put more damage into it, so that it's viable that way. Jinx Whisper turn 1 combos don't work anymore. Straw Shield got removed from it. I don't know what it does. I don't know why you'd run Moala right now. At all. I don't... Maybe it's even D tier. I think it is. It's got good offensive typing. Yeah, you put it into D? Yeah. I was just thinking about it some more. It's got Black Hole, it's got Haito, so it's got some utility. It's still designed to be a support, but it doesn't exceed at anything. Its best stat is attack, for reference. It's one of the highest attack mentals and melees, which is really weird because it's a support. And it doesn't have a good turn 1. I don't know. Yeah, we're just going to leave in D tier. I can't think of what it does. I can't think of why you would run Moala, quite honestly. I hate these three. I always hate the Venx, Vental, and Venmet combo. Venx, I think, is probably a little strong right now. Less turn 1 damage means it's harder to kill it. I faced one. It's a pain. With late Torment, it was just even worse. It's basically like a mental check. Kind of the same same thing with Venmet, mental check. But it's actually decent against Earths, so I'm going to put it in B. And even despite getting Whiplash, I think... Oh, I didn't see it. I think Vental is just going to be B-. I don't think it's bad. It's just so much harder to play around with its nasty weakness chart. You think Amphitheater is better than Moala? Well, that's perfect then. They can both be in B, in D. But yeah, I think this is fine. I think Venx is still the best of the trio. Venmet's second best, and Vental's third. It's kind of how it's always been. Jamurian, Jamurian lost Glassblade, which is healthy, but because of everything else getting nerfed, that the end result is that it doesn't change a whole lot. It's still one of your best offensive natures. It's got great scaling options. You still have Has Rush if you need situational prio. And an interesting suggestion was brought up where you could actually run new footwork with it and get +2 speed. So that and the Invigorize, which actually kind of appreciates. Despite a huge pass, those top tiers look kind of similar. Yep. I think the worst thing is that the top tiers are actually like full. Usually we have like 1 to 2, maybe 3 A pluses, maybe like 5 or 6 A's. But the problem is that they're so overloaded. Like the difference between the top and the bottom is so bad. And then also there's so many natures down here because they just killed the type. Arachnite. So they had made such a good change to Arachnite where they're like, all right, we're gonna, or they gave it overclock, and I was so happy. And then they're like, all right, we're gonna rework adaptive so it only gives +1, but the type change happens before you get hit. And it's like, no, which is great and sad at the same time because I loved Arachnite as a nuker. You get 1 overclock off, and then you just hit knockback, and all of a sudden it deletes something. But now you only have +1 special attack afterwards, and you're actually just a worse Momo doing that way. Like, everything about you is worse Momo, and that feels awful. Like, it's all right because like new adaptive is great in its own way, but it's just I'm not a fan personally. And looks like my time limit is approaching, so we're gonna have to skim through these last ones. Munko, I haven't seen a whole lot of Munko. I've heard that it's actually decent, but you're pretty much gambling on your opponent's not having Digis, and now it doesn't have Straw Shield to support it, even though I think you still run Sensei Robe on it. Digis aren't super common. Having a couple less waters around, especially Platamus, probably helps it out. And being able to hit Earths hard is nice, but I don't think it's above B at all. Patching is more unbalanced in previous patches. Seems like they prioritize making things feel different, which is fair, yeah. Demanic, hello. Why is Brock C tier having good win rate with it? Are you playing it on a stall team? Because it feels awful. It losing Plague feels beyond terrible, in my opinion. I tried playing it and had no success at all. And I'm like a huge proponent of, like, fan of Brock. Okay, it does on stall. Yeah. So my opinion there is that stall is so ridiculously OP that you can pretty much run any tem on stall with like 6 solid core stall tems and still see good success. And then Broccolim's just kind of one of the extra slots that's just like, oh, we'll just have it here as like a Bark Shield Revitalized support, which, I mean, sure, but like, why did you take away Plague? Just add Revitalized to its set. As far as Anatan goes, I like Anatan. I don't think it needs to be changed. Getting head charge is actually really nice because now I can hit Earths coming in. I think most people overlook that. But the problem is I tried it, and since Earths are so common, and head charge doesn't quite do enough, it's just not a good meta for it, but I wouldn't change it at all. So I can't advise using Anatan right now. Tyrannax, another just A tier. Like, it lost Smoldering Kiss Slingshot combo, but it still has Embers, which is practically the same thing. People were saying that the big thing of Smoldering Kiss was for the Invigorize, but... And I mean, that's fair, but I think that Embers isn't... It definitely gives similar... Embers actually does more damage, gives slightly less utility, and costs a little more stamina, but I don't think that puts Tyrannax in any lower of a tier at all. At all. And because it's one of your nature options, you're always going to be at least running one of these every team. And I think most of the time you're going to be running Volphy and Shimurian, both. Volgon. I've seen some people say like funny stuff with Superconductor Volgon with that new stamina item. I don't think Volgon needs to be changed. It lost its Strangle A-Shot combo. I think it's still just a synergy enabler and with a niche short circuit. Nothing crazy. I wouldn't do anything with it. Honestly, Volgon's perfectly fine, yeah. Gallios. I haven't seen a whole lot of Gallioses. I think it's slightly more valuable than other times because it's anti-stall. So you can kind of run it and have most stall teams be forced to ban it. I don't know if that's really the case, because I don't play stall or Gallios. I think like you could reset the opposing Gallios, funnily enough, and remove the Doom. And all of a sudden, that really puts it in a bad spot. But if you ban the Waspian, then your opponent's kind of scrambling to try and push off the Doom. Just Fiery Soul it. You need 2 statuses, but yeah. I don't know. I don't think Gallios is bad by any means. I think it's above average, and I think once again, like, you remove nature types from existence, and all of a sudden it loses one of its weaknesses practically. Fiery Heist? Oh, there you go. Yeah, that would do it. Most people aren't running your team though. Did that twice. Funny. Yeah, I mean, I think Gallios is just going to be good as a stall breaker. I don't think it's going to be insane, and it's not going to be perfect at its job, but I think it's nice. All right, so just a quick some of the viable Chromions. I think Water Chromions has uses, but it's not going to be super common. Nature Chromion, kind of the same thing. Nature Chromion's nice as a nature hitter, but the problem is it doesn't have any great partners. Especially since like your microwave synergy is Tyrannac, which half the time will cancel out your trait if you're running Intimidator, and is also just awkward speed tiering. I've seen some people using Mental. I still think Electric's okay, but people haven't used Electric. Fire is probably decent too. I still like Toxic, but honestly, like all the Chromions, I don't think they need to be changed. I should probably put them in B tier, but they're definitely not like great. They're Tems you can slot in if you need a Digi. Like, you could run some of these other ones too. I'd maybe put some of these in lower tiers. Maybe like Melee is okay. The rest are just whatever. Koishes. You actually hardly see any Koishes. I think Fire Koish is alright. Nature Koish is decent. Digi Koish is maybe a little strong. A Digi-Koish, the reason why I'd probably put it up higher is because all the Toxics and it gets Faraday Cage synergy. You can't hit it and it gets Prio with Cyberclaw. You can put stuff to sleep. So it actually gets a lot of value out of a little bit of speed invest. And it still has enough bulk that you just can't do anything to it. I mean, you can, but like less Prio also hurts. And then the rest of them are kind of whatever. I've actually been playing around a little bit with Crystal Koish, but I'm not a huge fan. So, all right. Let's see. Can I just presentation mode? All right. Can you guys see the? Hold on. Yeah, I was gonna say you can't see the whole thing. Nope. Okay. It's not like a perfect... I'll post this on the main Discord and in my Discord too. But this is kind of the end result. I think just the takeaways are a lot more AA plus and A tiers. I guess a lot of it just more A plus tiers than we've ever seen before. And with so many of them, like A plus Tems are usually the Tems that you almost have to slot in a team. And they're generally unhealthy. And you can see just like the effects of most of the nerfs that they did. I think if you could bring the average power level of everything down to that C level that everything else is, that would be good. I think the problem is that that's really, really hard to do. Because there's so many Tems above C tier, whether it's B, B minus even, that you would have to bring down to match where those other Tems are at. I think after seeing this patch, I think it's okay to do some amount of changes to hit those A plus tiers, but I don't think you can just do overall sweeping changes like they were planning on initially. I think that they need to revert the plague changes, or all three. Right, give it back to Brock, give it back to or give Epoxy back to Lawali. Give Boomerang back to Saku, and give Plague back to Amphitheater. Do those 4 things, and I think it helps a lot. But that's just kind of my opinion. I hope this kind of helps. Like I said, there's not planning on doing a mid-season patch, so this should be a viable tier list. Oh wait, hold on. I just realized I cut off the other half of it too. Nope. Yeah, there's pig and Osakai over there. Yeah, I don't know. It should be a good resource for most of the patch. I know there's going to be some people who disagree with me on some points, but I think in general, like you really just got to focus on the A plus and the A tier, and I don't think I'm really wrong about those. There might be some more tems that people would argue should be moved up to A. But I don't think any should get moved down. Brock Plague back would be very good. You mean that you want it back, or you think it would be like too strong? I think it would be really kind of good if Brock ends up in B plus tier for a patch. And I think if Brock ends up being too strong on like stall, then we start nerfing stall, because stall got way too many changes this patch with stuff like building blocks added, Waspine becoming viable again, Tortonite getting practically untouched, so many like turn 1 moves getting hit, and yeah, it's just, I mean, I'm not even that like mad about stall being useful for a patch or two. I think the problem is just they didn't nerf toxics and ended up buffing things like Schween. It's just an insanity to me. I'll still probably play some this patch some more. I don't know, probably won't be tomorrow. Tomorrow's like Father's Day, I think, so I'm going to be spending it as a family day. So probably like next weekend. Maybe I'll catch you guys on the ladder throughout the week too, because I'll be playing. But that'll be all from me today. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to like ping me on Discord or ask in the YouTube comments, and I'll get around to it. But you want Plague back? Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I definitely think they should. I'm gonna write up a comp feedback post probably tomorrow as well in the free time I have, because the Mustache Man said that he'll answer some of our questions, and so I've got questions for him. So if anyone's curious about that, you can pay attention there too. So you don't think stall is terribly OP from what you've seen? I think it's ridiculous, but maybe it'll be more balanced out. Maybe it's just the fact that toxics are strong, and like all the individual stall tems kind of got untouched, and it got a few stall buffs at the same time. You think Nid needs a change? I think Cowan also needs a change. I think you hit those two, and then stall's probably okay, even with all the other stuff it got. But I think both of those need to get hit, at the very least. But yeah, like I could keep going on, but I gotta end the stream because I'm already 10 minutes over. What would you change? Take away spores? I think at minimum you take try up like the poison takes down to 2. I think at minimum you take it down to 2. My suggestion was also that you remove Toxic Ink. Not that it's super bad because it's got Nox Bomb, but those are the 2 changes I would make. You'd make the poison ticks down to 2, and you remove Toxic Ink. I think that's the minimum that needs to be done to Nidrasil. It's been top tier for so long. It's ridiculous. That way it still has its stall functionalities, but the way that it's able to deal damage is very reduced. But yeah, no, gotta end the stream. Thank you, and I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.